Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies, and the Phils have a chance to clinch a first-round bye. Is it too early for them to do it?
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. I had a conversation on the radio this morning about the timing of the Phillies clinching a first-round bye. And I want to tell you just right off the bat, there should be no worries about it being, quote-unquote, too early for the Phillies to clinch a bye. I'll explain my point on that. We're also going to get into just a weird thought that I had today. Like, what is the Phillies' biggest strength? I think I could make an argument for a couple of things. And we also have a series with the Marlins, the penultimate series of the regular season. Next to last, for those that are not familiar with that SAT word. I just love penultimate. I slip it in when I can when I'm talking sports. But what can we learn from that series is very important. So I had this talk with my guys, Andrew and John, on Kincaid and Salchunas over at 97.5 The Fanatic this morning. Just a short discussion on, is it too soon to clinch? Because the thought process, if you're like, well, why would it ever be too soon to clinch? If the Phillies were to go out and beat the Marlins tonight and the Dodgers were to lose to the Diamondbacks tonight, the Phillies would lock down a first-round bye. They would be guaranteed to be at least one of the top 2 seeds. They could still catch the Brewers for the 1 seed. And we're going to talk about that as part of my explanation. But you might not have really anything to play for. And then you have 5 more games. And then you have the bye period to wait until when your series starts, when the wild card series are ongoing. And to some people, that might feel like a lot of time to play non-meaningful baseball. And I understand that, right? I get that worry because of this whole narrative that still exists, rightfully or wrongfully. I think wrongfully, that teams that get the first round bye are at a disadvantage, actually, in October. The Dodgers got the first round bye last year, or one of the first round byes. They won the World Series. The Astros got a first round bye back in 2022. They won the World Series. So, I mean, listen, it's beneficial to play less baseball on your road to winning a World Series than to play more. But for those that are worried about rust or anything like that, or sitting players too long, or having too little to play for, there are 2 major reasons why, in fact, the Phillies should try and clinch as quickly as possible. If they clinch tonight, that's the best possible scenario. If they clinch tomorrow, the next best possible scenario, and so on and so forth. Because it does not, there's nothing in the Major League Rulebook. I checked. I read through the entirety of it this morning. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. But there's nothing in the rulebook, I can assure you, that says once a team has clinched a first-round bye, they can no longer play their best players. They no longer have to try, right? You have the option, but it doesn't force you to do one thing or another. Now, I don't think there's any world. The magic number is 2 over the Dodgers, which means anytime the Dodgers lose, take a number off that. Anytime the Phillies win, take a number off that. The Phillies could go 2-4 against the Marlins and the Twins to round out their season, and they would be the 2 seed. So they're going to be the 2 seed, at least, right? So there's no world where they don't. But the longer that question mark still exists, even if it's a small percentage chance, the more you kind of have to start saying, oh, all right, we got to start selling out for these games, right? And I don't want to get into a situation where that gets any type of sketchy at all. Now, it won't. I promise you right now, it will not. But the more you extend out the, hey, we still need to lock this up, the better chance that you make a decision that's rash in the moment that could hurt you in October, playing a guy, playing guys too much, not getting them the rest they need so that they're 100% ready to roll when that divisional round series begins, right? You don't want to put yourself in that situation. So that's part of it. But also, if you want to continue to play those guys and you've already clinched, you have the right to do so. Rob Thompson could say, I'm putting my normal lineup out there. Let's say they clinch tonight. Well, Wednesday, you can put your normal lineup out there. There's nothing stopping you. You could do it again Thursday and again Friday and Saturday and Sunday to your heart's content. But you have the option of, let's say, Bryce Harper, who's been dealing with a wrist issue all year. You want to shut him down for a couple of days. Bang. As soon as you clinch a first round bye, you can do that. You want to take JT Realmuto off his feet for a couple of games. You can do that. You've got relievers that you don't want to use in certain spots. You could do that. You want to skip a start for somebody in the rotation. You can do that. Giving yourself that option sooner rather than later is a good thing. Now, part of this has to lead to trust with Rob Thompson. Because if you believe that Rob Thompson can properly manage who to play, who not to play, and balance that out so that they are playing at their peak, the paramount spot that they could be in heading into the postseason, that maybe you don't have faith in Rob Thompson to manage that the correct way. And if you don't, I don't know what you've been watching for the past month and change, because he's been a great, great manager down the stretch, pushing pretty much all the right buttons. Nobody bats 1,000, but he's been darn close to it. And he's done this 22, 23, 24, and now in 2025, where it's how do we prepare this team for the postseason, right? So this is not something new to him. So clinching as soon as possible is the right way. And the other reason why clinching as soon as possible is the right way, because I'm not writing off the 1 seed. Now, do I want the Phillies to sell out and go after the 1 seed? No. Do I ultimately care all that much if they're the 1 seed or the 2 seed? No. Getting that first round bye was always the goal. It'd be nice to be the 1 seed, because that, I think, lends you to some more advantageous potential matchups in the divisional series. But I'm not selling out and playing all my guys and saying, hey, Christopher Sanchez, you're throwing 8 innings on the final day of the regular season because we need that 1 seed. Like, no, let the chips fall where they may. If Milwaukee collapses and you have an opportunity, then maybe you can ratchet stuff back up in the Twin Series that's coming this weekend. But that's the other reason why you want to clinch as soon as possible, because you do want to keep that on the table. It's a balance of, I don't need it, so I'm not going to put myself at major risk to achieve it, versus, hey, it would still be nice to have that option on the table because you never know, right? That's it. So anyone who's out there and has that intrusive thought of, are they clinching too early? Is it going to lead to this decrease in adrenaline or focus and get them out of their routine? And then the next thing you know, the bats go cold in October, right? I don't look at it that way at all. I think you're not playing with fire, but I think you're unnecessarily worrying about it if that is your thought. Either they're going to hit or they're going to not. And I don't think it has anything to do with how much baseball they play this week. I'll give you guys a little inside information here. All right. Even if they don't play in the games, it's not like they're not touching a baseball bat. It's not like they're not throwing or fielding or running or any of this stuff, right? They're going to get at bats in live at bat sessions in practice or in pregame work. They're going to get batting practice opportunities. They're going to work on stuff on days that they're off. So don't overstate the whole rest versus rust thing. Football, sure. Basketball, sure. Hockey, sure. When everything's all said and done, the Phillies will have played 162 baseball games in about 180 some days. That's a grind, folks. So the sooner you can get guys off their feet, the better. And then you just leave it up to the manager to decide who plays when and where and how long. And I trust Rob Thompson implicitly with those decisions. I also trust Dave Dombrowski. I trust the Phillies front office. I trust John Middleton. I trust all of these guys that handle. This is the 3-foot putt of the Major League Baseball regular season. Everything's pretty much accomplished. There are one or two other tiny pitfalls that aren't even really pitfalls, just like a crack in the sidewalk that maybe you could stumble over. But that's the right way to handle it, in my opinion. Clinch as quickly as possible and at least open up the option that you can now sit some guys down. Not a necessity, but an option. Now, I mentioned the intrusive thoughts of, are they clinching too early? Well, I had an intrusive thought in a positive way about the Phillies today. What is their biggest strength? I know all year we've been talking about the starting rotation, but over the past month, things have changed dramatically in some facets of the team. Heading into the postseason, is it still the rotation that's the strongest point of this team? Because I could make a pretty strong argument that it's not. We'll talk about that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Nutrafol first, though, because you've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There's so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. That means you don't even have to wait until you got a bald spot in the back that everyone's been making fun of you about. No, you don't have to wait for that. You can do Nutrafol now. And even if you're worried maybe my hair will fall out someday, it'll help you be proactive and preventative. And you can feel good about using Nutrafol, knowing they're NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. It's simple to add to your day. 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed. So see thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB. Make sure you take care of that hair and do it with Nutrafol. What is the Phillies' biggest strength as we get ever closer to Red October? We know that they have a lot of them. They have the second best record in baseball, I believe, still, unless the Blue Jays have somehow caught them. This is what happens when we don't do a standings check-in. No, Phillies do indeed have the second best record in baseball. Clearly a lot of strengths, right? What is their biggest one? I got to be honest, it hasn't felt like the starting rotation over the past month. And that's not because the starting rotation has been bad. I think there are other factors at play that we may have to consider. And the more that we can make an argument for, the better chance they have in October. And speaking of October, some things you got to do before October. If you're checking us out in podcast form today, appreciate that very much. We are available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you're rating and reviewing. That'll let your podcast platform know, hey, I like this. And let other people jump on board the Locked On Phillies bandwagon ahead of October. But also, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. It's free and easy to subscribe, but it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. That way you won't miss any of the big time content coming your way as the postseason gets ready to get started. But the Phillies' biggest strength was always their starting rotation. And once Wheeler goes down, you feel like, okay, maybe it's not anymore. It's certainly lessened without Zach Wheeler, the ace of the staff, but Ranger Suarez stepped up really big. And Christopher Sanchez has been awesome this year. And Jesus Luzardo has really good stuff and really high upside. He's just a little inconsistent. And then you look at Nola and Buehler and Walker, and these are 3 guys with bona fide major league resumes, postseason experience. And how do you utilize them? They're almost turning into these weird Swiss Army knife starters where you could start them, you could not start them, you could use them in a very specific one-off situation, and that's a good thing that you have all of these options. But I got to tell you, the strength of this Phillies team has turned out to be what the strength of past Phillies teams were. Now, last year, the rotation was the strength. This year, for a majority of the regular season, the rotation was the strength. But I'm here to tell you right now that the strength of this Philadelphia Phillies team has turned into their offense. It really has. I mean, you look at what they have in the lineup compared to the rotation, right? If you want to make the argument, Connor, the starting pitching is still way better. Okay, who do you have? You have Christopher Sanchez, who's probably going to be the runner-up for Cy Young in the National League this year. Awesome. I can counter that with Kyle Schwarber, who's going to be the runner-up for National League MVP. You have an equal to that in the lineup. Let's look at Ranger Suarez, who has some darn good numbers. Are they better numbers than what Trey Turner has put up offensively as one of, if not the best contact hitters in the National League? His WAR, Trey Turner's, better than Schwarber's this year. It's hard to believe for a guy that has 53 homers and 120 some RBIs, but Turner has been more impactful by WAR, which I don't subscribe to, but like a lot of people do, than that this year. And you compare him to Ranger. I mean, Turner's had the better year. Rangers had the better recent stretch. But as Trey Turner prepares to come off the injured list, and he's going to be taking live at-bats tonight, not in the game, but he will get, or at some point today, live at-bats in as he draws closer to returning to actual play. He's better. Bryce Harper compared to Jesus Luzardo. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, Bryce Harper, another MVP caliber season from MV3. No, but am I going to tell you he's had a worse year than Jesus Luzardo? And this is not me saying any of these guys have been bad, right? We're listing some very darn good players who have had some incredible seasons. But I'm taking my trust in Harper over my trust in Luzardo every day of the week, right? So you look at the top three guys, and that's really all you're going to use in the NLDS as far as a rotation is concerned. You say, wow, there's not really an argument there that the top three hitters have been better than the top three starters. On top of that, the depth that's added to the lineup by Alec Boehm, who's come back and is on a heater right now. Brandon Marsh, who's been one of the red-hot bats in all of baseball since really July. He's been playing incredible ball. June. You add in Harrison Bader, right? And you look at everything that he's done to add to this team. They have some real depth in the lineup that they no longer have with the starting pitching. And I'm not saying starting pitching is a weak spot, but if you ask me what I'd be more afraid of if I was facing this Phillies team, I'd be much more afraid of, not much more. That's an overstatement. See, I caught myself, so you can't catch me in the comments. I'm correcting myself. I would be slightly more afraid of the lineup than I am the starters. Now, the bullpen is not truly in this discussion. I'd be lying to you if I tried to make the argument of, could the bullpen be the strength? Because I still don't know what Orion Kirkring is. I still have questions about guys like Tanner Banks and Matt Strahm, or these lefties that are craftier that don't really have the velo uptick. David Robertson is ancient, and he's been really good since the Phillies signed him. But come on, there are question marks. Now, do I believe in this bullpen to get the job done? And is a lot of that the belief in Joan Duran to just eliminate a whole inning? Yes, I do believe they will get the job done, right? I believe they have a good enough bullpen unit, but it's not a calling card unit. It's not when you play the Phillies, watch out for their bullpen. No, it's when you play the Phillies, watch out for the ninth inning, watch out for the offense, watch out for the starters. But innings 5 through 8 still are very much like toss-up innings when it comes to the Phillies bullpen. I'm not saying they're bad, but I can't rightfully put them in the conversation as like the quote-unquote strength of this team. I also can't do it for fielding, even though I do think with the outfield rotation, their fielding has greatly improved. And the infield has looked really solid, both with and without Trey Turner this year. I have no issue with their fielding at all. We know that base running is not a strength. I mean, come on. But the Phillies have a lot of different things that they do really well. And I talked about it maybe like a week or two ago where I said, you know what, sneakily, the Phillies have kind of turned into that Brewers team where they just do everything right, or they just do everything well, at least. They can beat you in a billion different ways. Your game, our game, home, away. So the main point of this conversation is not to say the pitching is taking a step back, the offense is taking a step forward. It's to tell you, hey, the strength of the team may have shifted, and it's more because you have all of these talented hitters and they've started to really get hot. So you should be feeling good. Reason number 1,000,000,001 why you should feel good about the Philadelphia Phillies in October. The most recent athletic power rankings were just posted today. The Phillies are number 2, right behind the Brewers. Like, what more could you have wanted to see in a regular season from the Phillies than what you've already gotten? Okay, well, that's a loaded question because there's always something more you can see, right? But I think that you've gotten a damn good year out of a lot of guys on this team when everything's all said and done. But there are still things you can see, right? I know I just said that, so you might be like, Connor, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Well, they still have to play baseball. If it was up to me, like, cool, let's move on to the postseason, whatever. Let's roll right now. But they've got 2 more series, including one starting against the Marlins tonight. We're going to talk about the Christopher Sanchez start for game 1 and what you can still learn from this series between the Phils and the Marlins with what feels like very little at stake. We'll discuss that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Oh, let's talk about FanDuel, though, because FanDuel is the best in the NFL season. It's rolling right now. FanDuel's making sure that you're ready for every game's kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The Birds won again. They might be invincible. Maybe you just place that $5 bet on Birds money line in Tampa this weekend. Or maybe you take like a plus 10,000 bet and you put that on it or whatever. One of the longest odds that you can find. Your actual payout, pennies. But with this bonus, $300 in bonus bets to use across the app on everything from parlays to props to futures to money line, over, under, everything. They've got it on FanDuel, and it's super easy, and the payouts are fast and safe. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. What do you even learn from the final 2 series of the year when your team has already locked up the division and postseason seeding pretty much, and you're going to lock up the 2 seed unless, I don't know, an asteroid hits Citizens Bank Park? Like, what do you even learn? Do you just zone out on this series with the Marlins and the next series with the Twins? No, you do not. And there are plenty of good reasons why. Stuff feels pretty settled for the Phillies right now, right? They've won a bunch of series, the most number of series won in all of baseball. And they are in the postseason, and things are going well for them right now. So it's not like they've backed into it or anything. What's still to learn? There are definitely question marks. Trey Turner, at some point, either in this Marlins series or at the early part of the Twins series, is going to be activated off the injured list. He hasn't played in a game in a while now, a couple of weeks. You can learn whether or not he is still on the heater that he's been on all season. Like, I don't know. Is there a real possibility that Trey Turner comes back? It doesn't look like the guy he's been all year because he just had his routine kind of screwed up, or the injury like kind of nags a little bit as he's coming back to play. It's possible. You need to watch for Trey Turner and see what his swing looks like, his at-bats look like, how he moves, how he fields. Alec Bohm, he's red hot after coming off the injured list. So if Trey Turner does that, hey, gravy. If Alec Bohm continues to do that is a big-time question because, man, does this lineup look infinitely deeper with the addition of Harrison Bader? And then you bring in these 2 guys back from the injured list and you just say, okay, we've pretty much got 1 through 9 locked down. Great. Those are some things to look at. That's just hitters. I mean, you could talk about all the hitters and just make sure they stay hot, but Christopher Sanchez is your game 1 starter. Like, I'm not exactly looking forward to a potential bad start for him, I need to see him go out and shove and really make us feel as confident as possible that he's got his good stuff heading into a game one matchup with whoever at Citizens Bank Park. So, starters, you're learning more. The piggyback situation. We're going to find out more about that in this series against the Marlins. How does that work out? Will they start Nola? Will they start Walker Buehler? Will they start Taijuan Walker? And if so, who piggybacks with them? We're learning about roster decisions. And then in the bullpen, who are some of these guys still? Orion Kerkering is the number one guy pitching-wise that we still need to learn about because he's been struggling, man. This has not been a good year for him. And his numbers will look all right when everything's all said and done. But where can you use him in a playoff game if it's win or go home or one of those like, hey, we need this game to give ourselves a good chance of winning this series? You got to be able to use him in some capacity, but what capacity is that? The more you throw him, the more you understand whether or not he can help you. If he struggles, he drops further in the bullpen faith rankings. If he's lights out, hey, okay, maybe we found something. We'll try him in a leverage situation in the postseason. That's it, right? You always can use more information on your team. You want as much as possible before you're forced to basically put the blinders on and say, it's October, we're playing to win. Like it's life and death right now. These non-life and death situations for the Philadelphia Phillies in the final week of the season open up your final chance to experiment with some of those questions that I just brought up. And you also, like I said, have to try and clinch. So winning ball games is still important. Until everything's locked down, I'm not going to be like, well, I don't really care if they win or lose tonight, right? I kind of did feel that way over the weekend against the Diamondbacks, but part of that was back end of a road trip, West Coast road trip. Diamondbacks win a couple games, maybe it knocks the Mets down a little bit. And also, you already took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers and accomplished stuff on that road trip. So maybe the reset of the off day yesterday gets them back into the, okay, fun road trip, not a fun end to it. We got out the whole kind of sleepwalk games in Arizona where it didn't really matter. Now take 2 games against the Marlins, lock everything up, and do whatever you need to do housekeeping-wise against the Twins, right? That's it. But as far as tonight's game is concerned, I will be watching closely the approach because bad teams are bad teams. The Marlins, I don't know that I'd say they're a bad team. Middle of the road team, 76-80 right now. I guarantee you that Locked On Marlins, if you watch, they're going to be very excited about the season that their team put together because of the expectations. So there are some good players still that you can see. And tonight you're seeing Edward Cabrera on the mound, who's got a 3.57 ERA, a 1.21 whip, and has struck out 140 batters in 128 2/3 innings. That's a good arm, man. Good righty. See what you're going to do against tough righties in the postseason. And we've already got a pretty darn good idea that like Kepler will get those opportunities over Castellanos. Marsh will get those opportunities over Wilson. Bader is playing every day or I will absolutely lose my mind. Like we have an idea of how that's going to play out, but I'll be watching closely to see how the at-bats still look put together. Like I'm not telling the Phillies when I say clinch early and then do whatever you want to do. It doesn't mean give at-bats away. It means give days off. And tonight, you have another opportunity to prove you are as good as you've looked for this past month. That's the thing. The more times you do it, the more it becomes like they can just flip this switch on and off. It seems like they flipped it off in Arizona. Time to flip it back on against the Miami Marlins. And the other thing being home too, and this is the factor that maybe the players think about, maybe they don't. Maybe the team thinks about it, maybe they don't. Fans that are going down this last week of the season, what they see is going to be their lasting impression of what they should expect in October, right? Every day there's new people at the ballpark that have not been to a game yet this year or haven't been in a while. And the more you win at home, the more that belief grows with the people in the yard, where you build up the environment. Not that if they lose this series to the Marlins, all of a sudden the bank is going to be quiet for Red October, but that fever pitch just grows with every game you win in front of the home crowd. That's another reason why these final 6 games of the season are important. So can the Phillies beat the Marlins? Well, they are a 68.3% chance, according to ESPN's analytics, to do just that. They're minus 240 on the money line tonight, so they're the favorite team. They should take care of business. They should beat Edward Cabrera and the Marlins. They should possibly clinch, but at least move to within 1 game of clinching a first-round bye, and we should all be happy tomorrow. It's that simple, folks, and the Phillies have made it that simple by being a damn good team this year. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all of that great stuff that really helps us out. And we'll be talking tomorrow about maybe your first round bye clinching Philadelphia Phillies on our next episode.